Hello and welcome to another FPL video from Fantasy Football Scout. It's team selection time where we're going to go through how Gianni did in game week 5 and also looking ahead to game week 6. Any key transfers, the likes of Son, Harry Kane are on everyone's mind, so I'm sure we're going to be talking about them again in this video. Gianni, how are you doing today?
Yeah, good. A long FPL weekend, but all good. I think I'm in an okay place.
Yeah, I hate these draw. I hate the football being drawn out. And even before it was okay because it meant you got to watch a lot of football. But now you have to pay 15 quid for the pleasure. So it just makes
But Burnley,
FPL
West Brom.
Yeah, exactly. 0-0. I'd love to see the figures for it. Different conversation, of course, than what this video is about. But I'd love to see how many people are actually buying it. But there we go. That's a whole separate conversation. So yeah, we're going to get straight into it in a sec. We're going to go through how you did. Another green arrow, so you're on the rise again, which is good. So we're going to talk about how that happened. Just before we jump into that, we're going to talk about Fantasy 5, who we teamed up with again for this week. So really simple, free game. You've got a chance to win £10,000. There's no entry fee or anything like that. It's completely free to play. And basically, as you'll see on the screen, each player for 5 different games has a points total. And the scoring is basically the same as FPL, but without bonus points. And you have to choose who you think is going to score more than that. So Werner, for example, is 6.5 points. If he gets a goal and assist, he would beat 6.5. So that's the aim of the game. If you want to check that out, there's a link in the description below. And as always, I'll go through my picks for game week 6, essentially, at the end of this video. So link in the description below if you want to check that out. Let's take a look at your team then. FPL 74, 4-point hit. Remind us again what your hit was. It was to bring in Salah, right?
Yeah, I went early. I've made out early transfers. I don't know if you remember. I think I spoke about it last week. And I went, who did I bring in? I brought in Salah for Foden. And then I sold Werner for Brewster to make the money. So those transfers cost me 24 points. And then I used a 4-point hit. So I had a saved transfer. And then I used my 4-point hit to get KDB out. So I could have just gone KDB to Salah, rolled my transfer, no 4-point hit, started Foden, started Werner, instead of Brewster and Trossard that got 3 points. That's the 20. So it could have been an amazing week. 96, 97 points? But yeah, if buts and maybes.
That's a killer. I mean, to be honest, without going into my team too much, that's what forced my wild card because I went early with the transfers and then I had to deal with De Bruyne. And so by the time I'd gotten Son in, it was a -8. And I was thinking, look, I could change other players in my team as well and cancel the -8. So I wasn't necessarily looking to wild card. It just forced my hand. So here's a quick kind of question for you then, based on that, obviously making those early transfers and being punished for it. Will that change your strategy going forward for them?
So Kane was due to rise last night. And he actually didn't. He's already risen once. He was due to have his second rise of the game week last night. So I could have made and Kane is someone I'm bringing in this game week. I didn't bring him in last night, despite the rise that I thought was happening. It will be tonight instead. And when I say tonight, we're recording this on Tuesday. So he's probably already gone up 0.2 by the time you watch this. But yeah, I didn't make it because I feel like I've been burned by that. The way of getting Kane in could completely change off the back of Champions League games, off the back of press conferences on Friday. So I think I'm going to try and sit and ignore the price rise, especially now with the COVID fears and there's so many fixtures midweek, which will get us more muscular injuries as well. I'm just going to sit on it and make my transfers Friday, Saturday, I think.
I suppose you had 2 free, so in the end,
it's a bit different.
Yeah, it only cost you -4. I think what makes it just doubly as worse is the players you took out. Like, if you'd taken out Werner and Co and they hadn't done anything, you'd probably be thinking, I could take an early transfer this week. But yeah, that's just the way it goes. Once you get stung, it does make you just reassess and rethink. And I think a lot of people will do that going forward now, probably chill out a bit, especially with all the European games and stuff like that. Obviously, like you said, we're recording on Tuesday, so Champions League is starting back up tonight, so that'd be interesting to see. But talk us through some of the players. So obviously Son did the business for you. Sterling as well, who's still really low owned. Overall, it was a pretty good week, right? Most players kind of came through for you.
Yeah, it was a good week. It's just annoying. It's a typical FPL manager mindset to go, it's a good week, but it should have been better because I should have kept Werner or I should have kept Foden. But no, you have to see it for what it is. And the 11 that played, most of them actually returned me something. Annoyingly, 2 I brought in didn't, Trossard and Brewster. But I'm fairly happy with the setup. It's a very budget backline. Reece James not starting is annoying, and probably he has to come out because he's not nailed. But I do think he'll start 3 of the next 4 or 2 of the next 3 Premier League games. So it's not a fire I have to put out immediately. And Brewster didn't start, but he was always going to be a 50-50 call. He was the first sub that came on. But no, look, Salah, Sterling, Son, Calvert-Lewin, Jimenez all doing the business. Just annoyingly, I didn't own the player that a lot of people captained and that did so well in Harry Kane. And I've missed the boat on that every single game week. I've had kind of safe and okay captaincy and all the 50-50 calls. My captaincy was between Sterling, Salah and Son, and I went for the one that didn't haul. He returned. But it's just been one of those seasons so far. But, the rub of the green will come and I'm fairly happy.
Yeah, I think, look, I mean, at the end of the day, getting a captain return is obviously better than completely blanking. You still had Son. So I expect if you add it up, captaining Son versus Salah is probably not a huge amount of kind of points increase. I won't try and do the maths live because, that I'll get it completely wrong and then I'll look like an idiot. But yeah, pretty good. Sice obviously did well. Lamptey, I mean, Brighton were pretty frustrating in that Crystal Palace game. Or to be fair, Crystal Palace were frustrating for Brighton. Just didn't try and go forward at all. I personally don't think it was a penalty, and I wasn't even I didn't even have Lamptey playing. I had him on my bench. I still just didn't think that was a penalty at all. And that's the only shot they had. Was that a penalty?
And the XG was 0.0, right? The non-penalty XG.
Yeah.
XG. It was crazy. Typical Crystal Palace, typical Roy Hodgson. I was a bit concerned on going the Brighton double up, which I've spoken about previously. But for the fixtures for Palace, and then this game week they got West Brom, I was like, I'm fine with having 2 Brighton starting 11 players in there. And they play good football, don't they? It's just frustrating because Palace were always going to get that. If they got that early goal, they're always going to somehow grind out a clean sheet, and they did.
Yeah, it's kind of what they do best.
Until the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think with Brighton, we don't need to get into a huge discussion on Brighton in general because we'll talk about your team for next week. And they do have West Brom, right? So that's good. I feel like they keep possession well and they look like they're doing a lot of things but not actually doing anything like that great, really, at least against Crystal Palace. Maybe they just got frustrated. There was a chance where Morpay in particular went through, just didn't shoot for whatever reason. Trossard was just, I don't know what it was. He's been so good this season, but that's like a 2-3 out of 10 performance at the weekend. But let's look at the team for next week because they do have much better fixtures. So Trossard and Lamptey obviously are playing both of them. West Brom at home. For some reason on this screenshot, I just point it out before everyone says in the comments, it's got a C and a V by Lamptey, even though Salah's the captain and Son's vice captain. So I'm not sure why it's done that. But
I was like hovering over it when I screen grabbed. Maybe.
Yeah, potentially. Just so no one thinks you're trying to captain Lamptey for this week. I mean, he's good, but I don't know if he's quite that good. So how are you feeling about the team for this week? Do you think there's a lot of changes you need to make?
Yeah, I mean, look, Harry Kane has to come in at some. So I've got 5.5 million in the bank. I've got Harry Kane burning a hole in my pocket. I kind of have to bring him in. I just don't quite know how I'm doing it. And the obvious move is Jimenez out for Harry Kane. Still leaves me with the 3 million in the bank-ish to then upgrade my defence or upgrade Burke or upgrade Brewster if I want. But there's something just telling me that I need to keep Jimenez for Newcastle and Crystal Palace, 2 home fixtures for Wolves there. So the only other possible way is, it's 2 ways. Calvert-Lewin, and I'm not even indulging that conversation. I feel like, his fixtures aren't brilliant, but I have to keep Calvert-Lewin. So then the other way is Brewster. I could go Brewster to Kane, but to do that, I need to find 0.7 million from somewhere. Now, where do I find 0.7 million easily? I'm not selling Trossard, who I've just bought in. The only one that really sticks out there is Reece James, isn't it? The one that, he's not nailed. He's 5 million. I could sell him for a Max Kilman, who, again, it would mean bringing in another player that isn't nailed, a kind of another enabler, which I've already got too many enablers. But it would give me a front 3 of Jimenez, Calvert-Lewin and Kane. And as I've spoken about before, I am all about the premium assets. And I kind of always think that, certainly amongst my friends, I'm renowned for squeezing in one more premium than most. And it at the detriment of my squad. But I feel like I'll probably play safe and just go Jimenez to Kane.
Yeah, it's such. It's so annoying. It's that like if you're only 0.5 off, then Reece James to a 4.5 is easy. There's a lot, and I think probably quite a lot of good options. But I'm literally just having a look down the list now, the 4.3s, and it's too risky with your subs bench. There's a lot of 4.4s potentially. But yeah, 4.3. Like you're looking at Struijk at Leeds, but unless Cooper's out for a while, and to be fair, it was only like a sudden warm-up injury. Yeah, so the chance of him being out for a long time is quite low. So Yeah, it's probably got to be Jimenez. I mean, do you think? Let's talk about Kane for a sec. Do you think he's that essential to bring in? Because next three fixtures are looking great. So was it Burnley away, someone at home? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Brighton,
Yeah,
and then
that's it. And then
Brom.
West Brom away. So next three fixtures look great. After that, it's really tricky. Like the fixtures really do turn. A lot of people are saying, they're fixture proof, etc. But it's City, Chelsea, Arsenal, Palace, Liverpool, Leicester, Wolves. That is pretty much the worst run you can probably have, like for most teams over that period. That is probably the worst run. So do you think he's still essential to come in, even if it's just for 3 weeks?
Yeah, I do. For those three, it could be season defying in those three alone, right? Like Mourinho knows how to bully weaker teams. I think back to Burnley up this weekend. I think back to the last time I think Spurs played Burnley, or certainly last season. Didn't they score 5 or 6? Albeit at home. I feel like it was the game Son ran like the length of the pitch.
Yeah.
And it might have been Son that had a worldie that game. But look, I think Spurs score 2+ goals against Burnley, against Brighton, and against West Brom. And what we're seeing this season with Spurs is when Son scores, Kane assists, and vice versa. And they are the only two that are kind of notching up those big returns. So I feel like I've got to jump on the bandwagon there and bring him in. And look, if it means I sell him 3 weeks later, then maybe I do that. Or maybe I keep one Spurs asset for that tough fixture run. What we should note out is, the fixture run is really tough in 3-4 weeks' time. It's also combined with Thursday night trips to Eastern Europe in the Europa League. So it's really not looking great for Spurs from then on. But for the next 3, I feel like the double up is a must, and I'll do what it takes to make sure I have both of them in my squad.
Fair enough. So you've only got one free transfer this week.
Yeah.
So Jimenez to Kane, it will still give you a lot of money. Again, I'm not going to work it out. It's like what? It's like 3 million or so, or 2 million.
Yeah.
So you still have like 2.5, 3 million to spend.
Yeah.
Are you interested in taking a hit anywhere? Obviously, Brewster didn't start the last game. He's got pretty tricky fixtures. Any other transfers you're looking at?
No, I don't think I'll be taking a hit this week if I do go Jimenez to Kane. I'm very happy leaving money on the bench, money in the bank. Sorry, if it gets me an 11 out, I don't tend to take hits just because I've got 5 million in my pocket. Look, Reece James, we're recording this before we've got team news for Chelsea's Tuesday night Champions League game. I'm hoping Azpilicueta starts, Reece James then plays against United, but maybe Reece James starts tonight. And he plays at the weekend too. I'm willing to gamble on Reece James without taking a 4-point hit. And then look, that 2-3 million I've got, I then upgrade Burke, or I then upgrade Dunn, or I then upgrade Mitchell. So that would be the plan for game week 7. But no, I mean, if it means starting Brewster, I'm happy with that against his old team. Look, he's a 4.5.
The narrative's there, isn't he? The narrative's there.
Set. No Van Dijk. He's trained against Matip. He's trained against Gomez. Why not? Like, he was the first sub for Sheffield United. Whether or not he starts, I don't know. But look, if you end up getting 1.5 Brewster, but I've got Kane in and I've got premiums delivering, I'm fine with that.
Good stuff. And so, looking at the kind of defence, if if Reece James misses out again, you might get away with Mitchell for one more week actually playing. Because Van Aanholt was back, but he was on the bench, so not guaranteed that Mitchell doesn't play. And it is Fulham away, and they're looking a little bit better with Lookman in the side, and obviously got Loftus-Cheek there as well now. But you might get away with that. Next week, let's say you are looking to bring in a defender. Have you got your mind on anyone that you might look to bring in?
The plan was always Robertson, and I can bring in Robertson by going Jimenez to Kane and then James to Robertson. But I don't quite know now how that Van Dijk injury affects things. I'll see how they look against Sheffield United. I'm expecting a Liverpool clean sheet there. But look, if this season's shown us anything, we had our first 0-0 draw on Monday night of the Premier League season in game week 5. We can't bet on defenders to keep cleanos. Therefore, the fact I might get Reece James only getting 1 point because he gets 10 minutes off the bench, or the fact Mitchell might not play and I might end up with only 2 defenders and get a 0, doesn't bother me that much because no one else is getting defensive lineups of 6, 7, 8 points each week. What's Trent been getting the last few weeks? 1 and 2 and 3 points. So I'm not overly fussed. But yeah, I mean, look, I will be improving my defense with that money, but I'm not going to lose sleep if I just have a couple of weeks with weak backlines, as admittedly I probably do have this week.
Yeah, but at least if you give it, I guess, one more week, then you can reassess potentially and look who to bring in next week, and just hope for this week you can get away with the James and Mitchell. Yeah, there's not been too many points. I'm looking at mine for last week. Reguilon 4, Dallas 2, Trent Alexander-Arnold 1. I mean, some people had the likes of Saiss on the bench, and obviously not on the bench, on the pitch, Charlie Taylor, etc. So there was some clean sheets, but I know what you mean. There hasn't been a great deal so far. So yeah, I guess without taking the hit, I mean, at the end of the day, not many people would take hits for defenders anyway. Like, a lot of people have that as a rule. Sometimes it can work out. I suppose it depends who you're bringing in, but it might also give you a chance to reassess Liverpool as well. Like, if they start conceding plenty to Sheffield United, then they're probably in trouble, because not many teams do that. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Let's finish on captaincy. So you got a lot of premiums, right? Let's say Kane's in there as well. You got Kane, Son, Sterling, Salah, who are all decent captaincy options. Some people will probably be captaining even Calvert-Lewin this week, given how good he's been. You're currently on Salah. Have you got any? Are you wavering at all on that, or is that just nailed in?
I told myself, from when I sold Salah in game week 3 on the wild card, the plan was always Salah comes in game week 6 because I give him the armband, and he came in early game week 5 and I gave him the armband then, and he still returned. But look, I just have always earmarked the Sheffield United home fixture for Liverpool and Salah, so I think I'll struggle to take it off him. If I've got the Son and Kane double up, then I'm probably happy not captaining a Spurs player, because I've already got 2 eggs in that basket, and given them the armband effectively is a triple up. So I think I'm all right on Salah. I mean, I'll be keen to see how he plays in the Champions League. Form is really important to me, especially this season. Sterling could go and bang a hat-trick in the Champions League, and then maybe I'm tempted to give it to him. But I think it's likely to be Salah this week for me.
Yeah, I mean, I was chatting to someone earlier, and it does feel like sometimes he's still going to be the most captain, right? So it's not across the whole FPL community, but it still feels like people need a bit, not you, but in general, need a bit of convincing to captain Salah, even though the guy's scored 6 goals already this season and got an assist. So he's on 7 returns from 5 games. And I agree, it's probably the best captain option. I do think, though, it's a really interesting week, because Sterling, hardly any talk about captain and him, West Ham away. Yeah. Does look like De Bruyne is probably going to miss that game, so that doesn't really help too much. And obviously Son and Kane are options too, so it's a good time to have a lot of premiums. I guess if you've got them all, you can't be too heavily kind of burnt along the way. So I think you're looking pretty good. 3rd green arrow on the trot, do you reckon?
I think so. I'd like to think so. I look at this team, and with the premiums, and then I've got Lamptey and Trossard playing West Brom. Calvert-Lewin's still looking good. Surely a green arrow. And when your rank's as bad as mine, getting a green arrow should be pretty easy. I keep thinking I just need that 100-point week, and I was so close this week if I hadn't gone early on those transfers. So look, I'm not saying I'm going to be near 100 points, but I just need that one big week to then see a sort of 1 or 2 million rank increase. It's possible.
Yeah, I think the team's starting to look good now. I think you had to do a bit of surgery after the wild card, but maybe Brewster can be fixed at some point. Unless he looks like a world beater, we don't know yet. He could be amazing, and then defender transfer potentially next week, and then you're kind of sorted then, because a lot of people have got cheap players like Lamptey and Sector in their squads anyway, and like we said already, you've got plenty of premiums. So I think you're looking good. Let us know in the comments below what you're thinking. What do you think about Kane? Is Kane essential to having our teams now? And what about Jimenez to Kane? I know a lot of people are considering that. If you are, let us know in the comments below what you think. Just before we end the video, I'll just quickly go through my picks for Fantasy 5. So again, if you want to check that out, link in the description below. So basically all the players for every game are on this list on the right that you can see there. Really quickly, last week my picks were rubbish. Werner, to be fair, came through, 3 returns. But Aubameyang, Morpay, Fornals and Dallas just did absolutely nothing. So this week, I'm actually probably going to pick Werner again against Man United. The Man United game is interesting. In some ways, the Man United game is the easiest one to call, because Werner only needs 2 returns. Paul Pogba obviously didn't start the last game. He only needs 1 return to beat his score, 4.5. So even an assist would do. Obviously, probably price a little bit lower because he didn't play. But I'm going to go for Werner again. I think lots of talks about high lines getting in behind. Man United's probably as good a game as Southampton for him if Chelsea come out of the blocks. We did beat you a few times last year in the Premier League, but at least the first game, I think it was the 4-0. We were fortunate to win 4-0, right? That shouldn't have been. So
should have been Chelsea 4-0. I don't know how that happened. That
hit
first
the bar
game.
like a million times. But yeah, we'll see. I think it's a good match for Werner. If you've still got him, I think that's looking pretty good. Second game is Liverpool versus Sheffield United. So actually, funny enough, because we were just talking about it, he only needs one return. Brewster is 5.5, so he needs one goal. I'm going for him. I'm telling you, that's narrative locked in. No Van Dijk. I even saw that Matip hasn't trained or something. Now, I will say this right now. We're not trying to scaremonger. I saw that on Twitter from a respected journalist. But, again, it's before the match. We don't know what's going to happen there. There's a long time till the weekend yet. So I'm not saying he's out, but I did see something about him not training. Van Dijk's out, Adrian's in. So I'm going Brewster for that game, backing against the Liverpool. Well, not backing against them, but Salah and Mane have to get a lot of returns to win this. And then Everton, Southampton, if we're talking about getting in behind a Southampton, the guy that's going to be getting Everton in behind is James Rodriguez. So he has to get a couple of returns, but I would not put that past him in the form he's in.
Could have had so good against Liverpool.
Exactly. Could have had more.
So good. He's just such a worldie. Like watching that game, and obviously I'm not a James owner, but just watching the way he controls and dictates play, even when he's in a weaker team against stronger opposition, Everton against Liverpool, he's just such a talented footballer. It's a joy to see him in the Premier League, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just the way. It's even the way he can just make space, as if he's hardly moved away from the player at all, and he's done it so easily. Like what he does just looks simple.
Yeah.
But it's not that simple to do. But he's just that good that he makes it look like that. So he is in. I'm an owner. I do love the guy. Needs a couple of returns against Southampton, but he's already got a couple of double-digit hauls. So I like on the look of him. The Wolves versus Newcastle game is really difficult to call because Jimenez would have to get 3 returns, and I just think absolutely never happening. It's very rare he's ever got 3 returns. The same for Podence and stuff. They would need 2. So I'm going to go for a defender in this one, and I'm going to go for my boy Seiss, who I've got rid of in FPL. So he needs a clean sheet and a return, but he nearly got one in the last game. So potential there for that to happen, especially if he's playing left wing back.
Yeah, which I think he will. I think they'll go for the same back 5 or back 3. Kilman was man of the match. It's hard to drop him after that.
It's also hard to drop Seiss as well. So
absolutely,
yeah, I think he'll play again. Just needs one return. And I looked at the stats actually between him and Semedo. Semedo's not doing as great as you might think, and Seiss actually doing pretty decent. So he's in, and then the last one is Arsenal versus Leicester. Now I think Aubameyang has to get 3 returns. No way, the form he's in, he's just playing absolutely awful right now. Jamie Vardy's another 3 returner, so I'm going to go for Harvey Barnes, who hasn't really done much, and this is a tougher game now. But he's the one I'm going to go for, and I'm hoping to get some of their players back from injury, which should help them out. So that's my picks: Werner, Brewster, James Rodriguez, Seiss, and Harvey Barnes. So if you want to check that out, there is a link in the description below. Very handy link. You can check that out. And like I said, it's completely free to play. I'm going to submit my picks now, and then job done. So yeah, there we go. Thanks very much for joining me today, Gianni. A pleasure as always.
No, I look forward to be back next week, hopefully with that green arrow, and hopefully not saying, why the hell did I sell Jimenez again for Newcastle at home?
The thing is, I think, just really quickly on that move, I think, will Jimenez score in that game? Probably. Will Kane score? Probably. Has Kane got a better chance of scoring more? That's the way I would be thinking about it. It's really hard to take Jimenez out against Newcastle because I do think they're a poor defensive side.
Yeah.
But Kane has just got that explosiveness in him. He already has 3 returns, 16 points or more this season. And the thing is, he's creating so much. Yeah. So before, even when he was getting 200 points, he was never going to get near that 250 because he just wasn't assisting as well. And he's already got more assists than he's ever got in a season. And obviously some of that was fortunate against Southampton, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, he's just looking really good. So yeah, I like the move. It is frustrating. It's just a shame you can't eke out a couple more 0.1 millions, but that's just FPL.
So sometimes. Many are doing that move though, aren't they? The Jimenez to Kane, as you mentioned earlier. But to do that, presumably most managers that are doing that are taking a 4-point hit. I'm fortunate that I've got 5.5 in the bank. But Jimenez to Kane isn't the easiest move unless you've got a couple of million in the bank. So I don't know if I'd be doing it guaranteed for a -4. I probably would be because I do think Kane's essential. But yeah,
it makes it a bit trickier.
That bit riskier, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Look, we'll be back next week anyway to see how that move is done, and we'll also be seeing what transfer you're making next week. So I think it'd be a little bit more, obviously everyone's bringing Kane in this week. Next week, I think it might be a little bit different that you bring in. I'm interested to see whether you go defensive move or Brewster move. So we'll have to wait and see. If you do enjoy these videos, please do give them a like and hit that subscribe button if you're new around here. If you want to check out the Fantasy Football Scout members area, get access to loads of articles, stats, Opta-stats, and all that kind of thing, there's a link to that in the description below as well. Gianni, I'll say goodbye.
See you later, mate.
And I will catch you all again next week. Cheers all.